Prophecy Girl. In our season finale, Buffy finally confronts the Master, as well as a prophecy predicting her own death.
We open at the Bronze, with Xander seemingly professing his true feelings to Willow, but it turns out he's practicing a speech for Buffy.
He doesn't notice Willow's interest, because as we have established, he is an idiot. We cut to Buffy outside fighting a vampire with the ability to make things move in slow motion, while Cordelia is making out with a random extra in a car. Buffy kills the vampire, and I thought it was weird that they put so much importance on the build-up, but she killed him really easily.
Yeah, this scene didn't really go anywhere. Giles finally finds what he's looking for with the prophecy on the Master, which says that the Master shall rise and the Slayer ...
He gets interrupted by an earthquake, and I thought the effects were surprisingly decent.
I'm glad they showed at least a little bit of property destruction, because a lot of the time when there's an earthquake in TV and movies, things just shake, but nothing else happens.
True. We see the Master underground, seeming to celebrate his freedom, but it turns out he was joking, I think. It was a bit hard to tell because it wasn't funny.
Glory! Glory! What do you think? 5.1?
Oh, is that what that was? I thought he was just getting excited because he knew the prophecy was going to happen.
Maybe? See, I don't know. I'm not really sure what we were supposed to get out of that scene. The next day, Buffy tells Giles that the number of vampires is increasing, but Giles seems distracted. It's clear he knows something bad is going to happen to Buffy according to the prophecy, and I was really hoping they were going to explain where the prophecy came from, or anything about it. We know it came from the book that Angel gave him, but where did the prophecy come from to begin with? Who predicted all this, and how? We never get any answers.
Yeah, but haven't they referenced other prophecies? Like, all of Giles' research is based on that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating. It felt like very lazy writing.
I'm kind of indifferent towards it. Xander is going to finally ask Buffy to the spring dance, and he probably figured since he wears the dumbest shirts on Earth that it would be a good move to cover up his current one. He reveals his true feelings, but Buffy doesn't feel the same way.
I just don't think of you that way.
Poor Xander.
Xander takes it about as well as expected, which is to say he storms off to sulk.
Giles is making a mystery phone call to someone he needs to see and receives a visit from Miss Calendar, who has been surfing the net.
Well, I have been surfing the net looking for unexplained incidents.
She tells him about some apocalyptic omens she's been reading about, and they actually were pretty cool.
A cat last week gave birth to a litter of snakes. Family was swimming in Whisper Lake when the lake suddenly began to boil. And Mercy Hospital last night, a boy was born with his eyes facing inward.
Giles tells Calendar that he doesn't know if he can trust her, but he wants her to get more info from a monk that has been emailing her stuff about a prophecy and the Anointed One.
Willow talks to Xander about his rejection, who is actively in the process of defacing school property.
He's throwing a ball at the wall. Is that...
Yes.
Really?
But he's convinced the reason Buffy turned him down is because of Angel, not because of everything he has done throughout this entire show so far.
And her interest in Angel has been pretty well established at this point. Xander just keeps looking more and more like an idiot all the time.
He asks Willow to go as his backup, and she turns him down too.
I kind of expected her to tell him that she liked him.
No way. Okay, we're not going into teen drama mode here. We're going to continue with this episode. Buffy continues her practice of walking through public buildings with giant weapons.
And when she goes into the bathroom, blood starts coming out of the sink. She goes to talk to Giles and sees him talking to Angel about the prophecy. I thought it was a little weird that she kind of spies on them.
Why?
Because why doesn't she just go in and be like, hey, Angel, it's me, Buffy?
Because her and Angel are, like, supposedly can't talk to each other or whatever from that other episode.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, so whenever I correct you and prove you wrong, it's whatever.
I don't feel that I'm proven wrong. I feel like you're pointing out how dumb it is.
Same difference.
Tomorrow night, Buffy will face the Master, and she will die.
Buffy is understandably upset, and I thought her acting was surprisingly good in this scene.
I agree. She yells at Giles and Angel, but Giles basically says there's no way out of it.
So she decides to quit.
She also mentions that a new Slayer is called when the previous one dies. I thought that was an interesting thing to note.
Xander is moping, and we don't care about that, so we cut to Buffy and her mom.
Buffy's mom misinterprets what's bothering her and shows her a dress that she bought her for the dance. I didn't think her dress was as great as everyone else seemed to in the episode.
I didn't really have any notes about her dress, but I'm glad you decided to bring it up.
Cordelia talks to Willow the next day and says she was ghosted by her boy toy, but she finds him in a room watching cartoons. Except he's not watching cartoons, he's dead, along with a bunch of other kids.
Willow is extra distraught because the kids were her friends, and it's not as easy for her to recover as it was when all the other countless kids from the school were murdered.
Every once in a while, I think back to the first episode when Jesse died, and it makes me laugh.
Who?
The next scene, the sun is already going down. We know that Buffy is supposed to die that night, and it seems like they're kind of jumping ahead. Willow comes over to talk to Buffy, and I like that Buffy's mom mentions that the kids dying was on the news. And Buffy tells Willow to stay in that night.
Giles and Calendar are trying to find out more information, and Giles reveals that he's going to face the Master instead to protect Buffy. But after her talk with Willow, Buffy has decided to follow through after all.
To prevent Giles from going, Buffy knocks him out, and given the seriousness of the episode, I couldn't help thinking about the implications of her knocking him out. He could end up with brain damage, he could have knocked his head when he fell on the floor. She didn't even try to stop him when he fell. It kind of bugged me.
Buffy finds Airplane Kid and lets him lead her to the Hellmouth.
Xander and Willow visit Giles, who thankfully seems to be okay because this is a TV show.
They're trying to figure out what to do next, and make a weird Star Trek reference.
Colin may work for Locutus of the Borg here, but I'm freaked out and I intend to stay that way.
Miss Calendar logically tells them that they have bigger things to worry about than just Buffy, but Xander shows his lack of character depth by refusing to listen and saying that he knows how to find out where Buffy went. He goes to Angel, but how does he know where Angel lives? As far as we know, even Buffy doesn't know where he lives. Giles and Miss Calendar realize they should try to find out where the Hellmouth will open, so Giles tells Willow to do some research, and we get a cool transition as she walks by.
Buffy reaches the Master while Xander and Angel are trying to get there in time. I did laugh at their exchange.
It was surprisingly humorous.
You checked at my neck. I saw that.
No, I wasn't. Just keep your distance, pal. I wasn't looking at your neck.
Willow and Calendar suspect the bronze is where the vampire army will emerge, but they are mistaken.
I thought it was cool seeing all the vampires converging on the school and how they just kind of look like zombies.
The Master reveals that the prophecy actually says that because Buffy is there, he will go free.
If you hadn't come, I couldn't go.
Then he bites her, drops her in a puddle, and gets out.
Xander and Angel arrive, and they find Buffy sprawled out in a different position than she fell in before, and Angel says she is dead. Xander suggests trying CPR, and Angel says,
I have no breath.
if he doesn't have breath, how is he talking?
Xander is hoping that Buffy actually died by drowning, and the CPR will save her, which it does.
Cordelia shows up in a car and rescues Willow and Calendar, who say they need to get to the library, so she drives right through the doors and down the hall, which was cool.
I'm glad their hallways were wide enough for a car to fit through.
When they barricade the library doors, Giles again uses his superhuman strength to pull over a bookshelf. He even manages to pull over a table on wheels.
They're trying to stop the break-in, but there's also a Sarlacc in there with them.
Buffy says,
Feel strong.
Then we get the theme music as Buffy walks, not runs, to the school.
So while Buffy is on her way to confront the Master again, the Sarlacc turns out to be something that escaped from House of the Dead. It was more impressive than I expected.
Agreed. It was a little too puppety, but I was glad it wasn't CGI. It reminded me a lot of the monsters in The Deadly Spawn, aka Return of the Aliens. The worm monster grabs Willow, and Giles attacks it with an axe. It was unexpectedly action-y on Giles' part, but it was cool.
It's a good thing he watched Jumanji before this episode.
The monster knocks Giles onto a table, and there is a way too obvious shot of a big pointed piece of wood sticking straight up. I wonder what's gonna happen.
Buffy's doing some real Power Ranger flips while duking it out with the Master, and she ends up throwing him through a window and staking him.
On that conveniently placed piece of wood, and the worm demon gets pulled back into the Hellmouth.
Then they all go to the prom at the Bronze to celebrate.
And they leave the Master's skeleton behind. But what about all the other vampires that were surrounding the area? What happened to them?
What about the custodian that's going to have to clean up everything? And what about when he finds that skeleton?
Oh, that Giles. He's always messing with weird stuff.
What about the car that drove through the school? He needs to talk to his union rep.
Prophecy Girl. Overall,
I think the word surprised pretty much sums up my thoughts on this episode. It was handled more seriously than I would have expected from pretty much everything else that came before. Sarah Michelle Gellar's acting was better than I expected, and not only was there real strife, but the characters actually took it seriously. Granted, they're not all on the same level. Buffy was slated to die, and Xander had a girl say no to a date, but they still took it seriously. I did question where everybody else in this town was. I understand the kids from the school were at the prom, but these Hellmouth events were happening all over the place. It was a little weird. And all the plans the Master had cooked up before this episode, did they not actually matter? Did those failures that were enraging him, did they not actually mean anything because all he had to do was wait? To me, that kind of made his whole arc up until this point kind of meaningless.
I would agree. I hadn't really thought about it, but that does make sense.
Maybe he just wanted to hang out with Brian Thompson.
Who wouldn't?
But overall, I was pretty impressed with this one. Whether it's because ones before were so bad, I don't know. I gave it a B+.
I gave it an A-. This episode did have a much more serious tone than usual, which I did appreciate a lot. I also thought it had better cinematography than usual, with more emphasis on visual storytelling, which was really cool. The first half had way too much focus on that Xander subplot that I honestly could not have cared less about, but he wasn't as annoying as usual. Angel actually helped out this time, and even Miss Calendar showed up, which really helped to sell the sense of importance to everything that was happening, and it was cool to see. The way things played out to wrap up the Master storyline was very satisfying, and even Buffy's way of getting around the death prophecy didn't feel like a cop-out to me. You said that the first two-part episode felt like a movie, and I felt like this one episode could have been a really cool, low-budget 80s movie with cool practical effects. I really enjoyed it.
A good closing to a less than good season overall.
Agreed.